Hey guys, Jermaine, Leanne and Theo here, and this is actually, crazy enough, Bubba, our first video like fully as monkey and barefoot.
Yeah, the three of us.
Doing our thing here. And so what we wanted to do for this one was to, we actually went out and canvassed some of our friends and said, guys, look, tell us some of the big questions you had before your babies came along, and we've just got a handful here where we just want to share our own experiences. Just give you a flavour of our views on some of those big questions, and hopefully it helps everybody. So Jane, do you want to kick off with the first one? Go for it.
I'll take the first one. So the first question we got was, how do I know when I'm in labour? And if I'm perfectly honest, I didn't know that I was in labour at the beginning. I remember it was Tuesday the 29th of January, and it was about 7 PM, and I was picking Jermaine up from the train station. He just finished work, and I remember saying to him, I've got this really weird pain in my tummy. And Jermaine, ever practical, was like, call the advice line, let them know what's going on.
Let me be very clear, right? I wasn't feeling that practical. For me, it was more like, look, if there's something wrong, stop complaining, I'm tired, I've finished work, I want to eat. So.
Okay, it seemed practical at the time. But so I called the advice line, explained to them what was going on, that I had this weird pain in my tummy that was kind of coming and going and wasn't too sure what it was. And then they said, it sounds like you're having contractions. And that was a bit of a surprise because it was before Theo's due date.
It wasn't that long before, right? And so we were on kind of alert, no?
We were on alert, but I just had it in my head that he's first baby, and I just had it in my head that first babies always come late, so
yeah.
I was expecting.
But look, I think that's an interesting one, because you kind of hear all of these like old tales and stuff, but then once we were on alert, and it was like, oh, okay, you might be having contractions. Well, all right.
Yep. Then I'm trying to think what we did then. So we got home, so obviously we were out.
Yeah.
We made the phone call, and they said, it sounds like you're having contractions. And and the advice we got was, time them, keep an eye on them, because if they're real contractions and not false contractions, then they will start getting more frequent, more painful, and will last longer.
But look, I guess though, but the way I felt, right, was when you're in the midst of all of this stuff, like you literally think, oh my gosh, what on earth is going on? I don't care what anybody says. When all of this stuff is happening, the rationality kind of is sometimes a bit difficult to kick in, because you've literally had to separate yourself from your normal life to this potential labour. And as you say, you're timing it. We had the app. We got this timer app thing on the phone. I don't know when we got your TENS machine.
No, we got the TENS machine a bit later. I think at this point it was when we thought, oh golly, this could be really happening. So you need to do your handover note for work. Yes. So you got your laptop out, and then we decided that it could be a long night, so we needed to eat. Yeah,
but I think the point at which your the pain started becoming more frequent and intensifying, that was the point where it was like, yeah, this is labour.
Yes.
I think, wasn't it? No?
I think so, because
before it was unsure, no?
It was unsure, and we were told on the phone that it could last for days, but my contractions started coming more quickly. Yeah. And more painfully, and lasting longer than we thought. No, this is actually really it.
Well, we're kind of drifting in nicely into the second question that came from Amanda, right? Or the second point, which was, how do you know when it's time to go to the hospital? Because I think we got, if I remember correctly, some steer on. It was do you remember the contraction timings?
They were. They told us that you had to have contractions lasting at least a minute. Yeah. And they were to come every 3 minutes.
Okay.
So they said, you don't go to the hospital until you get to that point.
That's right.
But I remember it being so difficult to time them when they were happening that quickly. And just wasn't really focusing on getting the phone out and opening the app and clicking start. All of these things. So.
What did happen actually? A big trigger for us was when the water broke.
Yes.
Because the point at which you said, "Oh, okay, you okay?" The point at which you said, "I think my water's broken," and then it went again, or whatever. However, all these things tend to work. The water going combined with the pain. Yes. So the intensity of the contractions plus the frequencies, it was lasting for a minute within every 3 minutes. That was a big indicator, right? Yes. And you remember the water kept coming?
Yes,
and stuff?
It kept happening. I remember making the phone call and saying to them, my contractions are coming really quickly, I can't even time them now, and my waters are broken. and they said, okay, sounds like it's time for you to come in. But it actually took us a while to leave the house because, like you were saying, I kept getting changed.
Yes.
And then my waters kept going again. I need to get changed again.
So that was a really interesting one because we had the frequency, the intensity, but once that water kept coming, once it just kept coming, that was the point where I had to really make the call. You okay? But that was the point where I had to really make the call and say, we don't know exactly what's going on, but it's better that we are at the hospital or in the vicinity of the hospital, because if anything's happening, we want to be able to get the care rather than kind of be stuck at home and then have any issue.
I think we just have the feeling, didn't we, that it was the right time to go to the hospital.
Well,
more so than the frequency of contractions and things like that. I think it was more that we had a feeling that, okay, things seem to be happening really quickly.
That is true. But from a partner's perspective, just to give you that, I was definitely... Oh, Bug, what are you doing? From a partner's perspective, I was definitely thinking, wherever we are with all of this, I just want to make sure that we are near professionals who can help. And I was prepared to go and then say, it's not time, you need to go back home. But I didn't want to be in a position where somebody said, you left it too long, you should have come earlier. So I took a cautious play. And that was important to do because ultimately at that point I had to step up and make sure the bear was okay. So then the next one, those are the kind of first two questions. How do I know I'm in labour and how do I know when it's time to go to the hospital? So the next one in from Swanee was, how do I cope with sleep deprivation? So when this bundle of joy comes, and often these bundles, they sleep in very small windows. How do I cope with sleep deprivation? How do you cope?
I think at first you just have so much adrenaline pumping through you that you just kind of feel like you don't even need that much sleep. I think it's after maybe a few days when things settle down and you maybe at home by then, we were at home by then, and things have settled down and we maybe got ourselves into a little bit of a routine. I think the way that I coped with lack of sleep is trying to sleep when I could, and we just had great teamwork. We would sleep in shifts.
Personally,
that's how we cope.
I think that sounds quite an idealised view. I'm going to give it. My straight view is, if you're sleep deprived, I'm not sure you cope. I think you've got to fight to. In my view, you've got to fight to get sleep. So for the first week, we slept on average 3 hours a day, and there was very little sense of coping other than you just need to keep getting through and just keep adapting. Completely, that's how I remember this situation. Completely new. 3 hours a day, random pockets you might drift off, and you're not doing anything basically.
But I think it really helped sleeping in shifts because I knew at least one of us was with Theo, so I knew that when it was my turn to sleep, I knew that Theo was with you, he was okay, so I could then sleep properly. Yeah,
I think that's probably quite fair. But I'm also conscious that there are a lot of people who don't necessarily have that opportunity to have somebody sitting there who can sleep in shifts with them. And I think if we're just looking at sleep deprivation in and of itself, I personally would say it's something that you've got to flag and get help with before it becomes a problem. So if you think on day 9 or 10. That was the day where we went to your mum's and basically said, look, no more of this. You need to just go and just rest. 4 hours. You slept 4 hours straight.
I did.
Because before that, you were like a zombie. You were like a zombie. So the whole point about sleep deprivation is that I'm not sure that you necessarily... I'm not sure you necessarily cope with it too cleanly. I think if you think you're at risk of being sleep deprived, I would say get help. You need to get help, get some support to enable you to get that recharging sleep. And if you happen to be lucky enough to be part of a team, which we were, you have to work together and get those little blocks, and they're going to be sporadic, right? You never know.
No.
Remember everything we were doing together anyway. Every activity we were doing together, every change, all of it we were doing together. It was never the case that you were ideally sleeping in. You know what I mean? I was never getting this clean few hours here.
No.
It wasn't really happening. Not in the early days anyway.
But I think you picked up on a really good point as
how you
well,
doing there,
in terms of I needed to listen to you as well, because you said to me, you need to get some sleep, and we're going to your mum's house, and you're going to go get some sleep, and we're going to look after the baby, we're going to look after Theo. And I think that was quite difficult as kind of a new mum. You feel like you should be looking after your baby, but I really had to listen to you.
Yeah. I think that listening and teamwork, man, is crucial.
Yeah.
And then, I suppose once as that's kind of evolved, we started trying. If you remember, Bubba, we started trying to train Theo in terms of sleep routine from he was about 4 weeks.
That's very true.
He fell into routine at 9 weeks, and he's basically been in a reasonable routine from now. But we still make sure that you get your little nap in the morning. Is essential, right? Oh, all right, kid.
No,
yes, mummy has to have a
true.
nap. So even and I sleep. I go to bed a lot earlier. Just cut out all of that television and stuff. Wake up early and feel massively refreshed. And so sleep quality is very high. So that's a big one to help with That's a big one to help. But certainly in those early days, when you're sleeping in those small windows, those small chunks, you've got to work as a team to get your hour here and there as you can. And you've also got to be sometimes willing to even just go to somebody who can help you and just get their support.
Yes.
Now that point about getting their support, I think it links in quite well with the fourth question that we had, the fourth point that we had about how do we know baby's getting enough milk, they're eating enough. This is also a Swanee question, and just the reason I said it linked is because one of the big things that helped us ensure that we could get help for sleep was our approach to feeding. You remember?
Yes.
So do you want to maybe just give the background how we started off with the feeding and everything?
So with feed, Theo was exclusively breastfed at the beginning, but he had an undiagnosed tongue tie. And so it meant that he was feeding really, really frequently throughout the day and night. Actually, it felt like I was feeding 24/7. And then we actually found out, I think around day 8 or 9, maybe, that he had a tongue tie, which explained really why he was feeding so frequently. We didn't know at this point. We thought he was just cluster feeding. But once the tongue tie was diagnosed...
Okay, you're saying Daddy wanted to go to a nap.
Once the tongue tie was diagnosed, and we knew actually that he probably wasn't getting enough milk at this point, that's why he was feeding so frequently, we switched to giving him some formula as well.
Yeah, and I think just on that point there about the tongue tie, so his weight actually stayed static. So he did we were unsure whether he was getting... We were unsure whether he was getting enough milk, as it were, but it was definitely the case that you don't know what baby's getting when you're going exclusively breast.
No.
That's a fact.
No, you really don't.
You don't know. There's absolutely no way of measuring the quantities. Now, of course, if you express and you're able to say baby took X amount, well then that's somewhat different, right? But you haven't got a clue. So the approach that we took after kind of about day 10 or so was combination feeding. Whoops, monkey. Was combination feeding, and that's just one of the things that I really wanted to make sure I spoke about here, because when I reflected on our breastfeeding experience, I really feel that sometimes you can hear a lot about breastfeeding. I'm not questioning any of the merits at all. I'm not doing that at all. But I felt a huge amount of emotional pressure to continue breastfeeding because of some of the literature I'd seen in the classes that we'd attended. And what it didn't quite cover as well, in my opinion, was the nuance which says combination feeding is fantastic. And it was only once we kind of explored that where, even my mum turned around at me and said, "Jermaine, but look at you, you are bottle fed, and look at the size of you and the health of you." And you kind of laugh and think, actually, absolutely nothing wrong. And combination feeding took so much pressure off us because it gave us the flexibility to let other people help out because we could give Theo a bottle. It also gave us some of that confidence around the quantity. So this is to the point, you know, how do we know that baby's getting enough milk? Well, of course, once we've fed with a bottle, you can just offer more. And the reality is, if the baby wants it, they'll take it, and if they don't, they won't. You know, we found that as Theo's got older, yes, as you've got older, he has been so much better at saying very clearly when he doesn't want the bottle.
It's true.
Just turns his head and leaves it.
We've really learned to just trust him, haven't we? We've really learned to just trust you because he's so clear at letting us know when he's hungry.
Yeah.
Letting us know when he's finished. So it has made life much easier. And I think it also links back to the what we were talking about before in terms of sleeping in shifts. Because we were combination feeding, it meant that you could do a late night feed while I would then get some sleep, and then I would take over.
Yes.
From 1 a.m.
That is a great point. So just on the point about sleeping in shifts, right? So the ability to let your partner actually take just to help over a block of time and allow you to rest is really big. So what used to happen roughly was that Leanne would finish her feed and pretty much go to bed, if I remember correctly, about 9 p.m. or something.
Yeah, that's right.
And I would pretty much look to do a dream feed for Theo at between 10 and 11 p.m. And then I would kind of stay awake, if you remember, for a couple more hours just to see how he got on. And Theo's recalling all of that. And during all of that time, it was just a pure window of time where Leanne could actually get her sleep, and where she could kind of really get her head down and just try to make sure she was recovered. Because the other thing is, she had to obviously take on the night shifts whilst I was sleeping, because I had to go to work. So I guess what we're saying is cluster feeding for us was no problem. I mean, Theo had no problem switching from breast to bottle and back again.
Yeah, there
was no issue there.
Fine with both.
Obviously, he's now exclusively formula fed, and is doing brilliantly for health, weight, and you can see he obviously likes to talk a lot. And just in terms of the impact on sleep and peace and our peace of mind, we were able to kind of chop our time up a little bit differently, so that we could get more sleep, basically, because we could because I could do bottle feeding in the night. We were also able to get more help from our families, right? Yes. Because they could then have Theo for pockets of time, whilst we took some time together, which we really needed.
Very true.
Yeah, fair?
It's very fair.
And then in terms of quantities, I mean, it's completely predictable, right?
Yeah, we knew exactly what he was having, exactly how much he had in a day.
Yeah. The one thing that we didn't do, we didn't know to do, is when we gave the first bottle, was to actually speak to the midwife so that they could give us clear guidelines on how much formula to give him, remember? And how often, right at the beginning. And then once you've got that, then it's pretty easy to actually just kind of follow a plan. And all the formula boxes will tell you. And that's an excellent way of just helping manage babies' quantities. Yeah. But is that fair?
So, and the best guide is, I think, when you have a certain amount that you're giving them, and you'll give them that amount at every feed. So I remember when Theo was on 4 ounces of milk each time, and then he kept just finishing his bottles, but I didn't even think to increase the volume. I remember speaking to the health visitor, and she was saying that if Theo is finishing his bottles consistently, then just bump him up to the next levels, up to 5 ounces, because if he wants it, he'll take it. If he doesn't, he'll just leave it. But at least you know then that if he does want a little bit more, then he's got it there.
True. And now this giant is on 8 ounces.
He is.
But he's doing brilliantly. And as I say, it's so predictable. We just never have a worry of him being hungry.
No. He'll let us know.
He'll just let us know. And invariably, Bubba, if you think, right, if he finishes a bottle, we just offer him more fairly quickly. And if he doesn't want it, no issue. No. If he does, okay, do what you need to.
Yes.
And that's one of the benefits, I think, of getting that routine maybe quite early as well.
I think
so. So guys, I mean, those are the 4 areas that we really wanted to cover today, and obviously you can see Theo's wanted to have his view on some of the questions as well.
You have a lot to say, don't you?
An awful lot to say today. That's good. Oops, you okay? Yeah. So we just wanted to try and so hopefully this was really helpful and just gives I don't know, but hopefully just a useful insight into some things that, I mean, so all these things, they really caught me by surprise, quite frankly.
Yes. I think it just highlights how much you learn as you go.
True.
And just learn by doing and trying new things and just when you get on with it.
That's very true, actually. Yeah. So, what's the summary of everything that we said? Just get on with it. My gosh. So, well, hopefully this is gonna help everybody out there, right? These things really caught us like really off guard. But I do think like if you feel any pains and you're kind of near due date, just call your advice line. Oh, you spat out, Bunky. I didn't realise. Sorry. And you just call your advice line. Hey, pass the muslin, please.
Yeah.
Call the advice line and just have a look and get the best advice that you can. You okay now? Call the advice line, get the best advice you can. Download an app on your phone as well, so that you can time your contractions, and just make sure your hospital bag is all ready to go. You're tired, boy. Now we're actually going to do our. All right, Bunky. We're going to do a post on hospital bags very, very soon. Just in terms of when it's time to go to the hospital. Look, if you're in doubt, go early and have them turn you back, is what I would say.
Most definitely.
Oh, poor boy.
Definitely rather go early than risk having your baby in the car at home.
That's it. And then I think just in terms of the questions around feeding and sleeping, well, I mean, what I'd say on feeding, and Bubba, you jump in here, is that combination feeding is absolutely a fine thing to do. I actually think it's a hugely beneficial thing to do because of how much more predictability it offers you.
Yes.
You get real confidence that you know how much baby's eating. If you're combo feeding, frankly, the baby's still getting great nutritional value from the milk from the breast, or you can express your milk, so the baby's still getting all of those beautiful nutrients. And it just helps you work more as a team, right?
Yeah.
Just takes the burden off you a little bit more.
Most definitely.
You're like a zombie for the first 2 weeks.
Like a zombie.
So it just takes that pressure off. And then in terms of the sleep, I think you do your best in the early days to sleep in your blocks, right?
Yeah.
But certainly, if you can, we did sleep training with him from 4 weeks, and we'll just link a couple books in the comments as well. But that really paid off from 9 weeks, and it's not been too bad at all, has it?
No.
He's pretty awesome, really.
He is.
Aren't you? Yes, you're pretty awesome.
We have been very lucky.
So in terms of the sleep, do your best to sleep in those blocks. Combo feeding will help you, or at least using the bottle for some expressing. It will massively help. But sleep training early. I'm an advocate of like 4 weeks, because once that benefit kicks in, oh wow, everything just becomes that little bit easier. But you have to start early and stick with it. It's not easy in the early days as well, remember.
And I think what we mean by sleep training is just trying to have a consistent routine.
Absolutely.
For Theo. So I think there are other things of sleep training out there, which is like letting babies cry it out and things like that. But what we mean by sleep training is just trying to have a nice routine for Theo, so that he gets to know when it's time to sleep and when it's time to be awake, and it's kind of predictable for him as well.
That's true. And he really, really just took to it. And the benefits are now we sleep pretty well.
Yeah.
All things considered, we sleep pretty well, so no reason to complain.
Yes.
So folks, hope you really enjoyed this contribution and we've been of service and have helped you. If you have, then we'll make sure that please make sure you do like, subscribe, and share. How many people should we share with?
I think we should share with 3 people.
Amazing. And maybe if you can just share with 3 people who are parents themselves or consider becoming parents. Hopefully they'll find our content and our channel really useful as we keep trying to hopefully help people on their parenting journeys.
I'd also say if you have any other questions that you want us to cover, then do add that into the comments, and we can do another session like this when we've got a few more questions.
That's really key, right? Because it's so great if we can all share the big questions we have, the things that really caught us a little bit off guard, we were really unsure about, and then hopefully through these kind of processes we can help other people just become a little bit more informed and really feel a bit more confident. Yeah?
Definitely.
Alright, so guys, thank you very much. Have an amazing day. And it's Jermaine, Leanne and Theo from Monkey and Bear Fit saying goodbye.
Goodbye.
Okay guys. Say bye, Bunk. So Monkey and Bear Fit is all about trying to answer some of the big questions that people may have before they become parents. It's also about helping people become mentally and emotionally stronger, physically a little bit fitter, and also giving some of our best tips and advice on how to try and get more time together as a couple.
So please watch, tell us what you think, and share with your friends.